The Ochelli Effect. And now, the most underrated voice in all media. The alternative's alternative. Chuck Ochelli.
The 30th day of March 2016 here on the Ochelli Effect broadcast live on American Freedom Radio at AmericanFreedomRadio.com. Here we will not be looking to walk back our statements on abortion made earlier in the week, unlike some people. Anyway, yeah, Trump makes his, if abortion becomes illegal, we're going to have to start prosecuting women who go get them. And then through some uproar, turns around and has to reverse himself. You know, that's the first time he said something politically incorrect that somebody actually tried to take him to task for it. I'm feeling pretty good about that personally. Anyway. Of course, we were discussing that on Monday night with Maria Heller, weren't we? We were talking about abortion and about, women's rights to choose things and so on and so forth, and how that echoes and travels throughout. And yeah, I got feelings on it, but here's the problem as far as I'm concerned. Since I do physically possess the medical term is penis. So since I do physically possess a penis, I really don't feel as though my vote counts as much as those that, were born without one. Anyway, who knows? Maybe we'll get into that topic later on. But putting all of those aside and not thinking about penises directly, my first guest tonight is Daniel Louis Crumpton.
That's the segue I get, right? You're not thinking about penises, and then bam, Daniel Louis Crumpton.
That's right. How you doing tonight, brother?
Thanks, Chuck. I really appreciate that segue into me. I'm doing pretty good. You?
Listen, I got to have a little bit of fun, Daniel. You know, it's a stressful time, as you actually are well aware more of than anybody who's listening to this show. And, okay, we'll leave that for off air. But the point is that there's a lot of things going on. There's a lot of conflicts going on, and interesting. I was going to have a discussion with you actually tonight, and this is where that segue, of course, I don't script anything. I don't think about it ahead of time. It just, whatever comes out of my mouth, that's the way it goes. But oddly enough, I was going to have a discussion with you tonight about the concept of manhood, okay? This whole idea about identifying yourself in a gender-specific way as a male, and I wanted to discuss that with you tonight. That was my general topic I had in mind. Of course, I was going to,
Well, you were aiming high there.
Yeah, I was going to ambush you with that one. And instead, you sprung something else on me, because I did partially listen to Vinny Eastwood's show. I think it was last night. And, hey, there was this guy on named Max Igan, wasn't there?
Yeah, Max Igan is, I respect the man for all the work that he does regarding Palestine. I think that is absolutely necessary, so I respect him greatly. And so I listened to that show with Vinny and Max with bated breath. And an issue came up that has caused division amongst the truth movement that, I just feel is unnecessary. And me and you've talked about it off air. And I know that you feel that it's very unnecessary. And unfortunately, it has to do also with the flat Earth theory and Santos Bonacci's position on it. And there was an off-air discussion that Max Igan thought that it would be okay to upload that. And, obviously that's at his discretion. But basically, there's been a back and forth. Santos shot over Max Igan's bow, and then Max Igan responded in kind. And I'm sitting here as an objective observer, and I respect both men and both of their fields of research, and I'm just shaking my head going, all this over flat Earth?
Yeah, right. And I mean, look, I'm a little more familiar, believe it or not, with Max than I am with Santos. And he had a show on this network just before I started doing the 5 days a week thing. And then most famously wound up, well, actually getting locked up, I guess, for contempt
Hmm.
and all that. And then when he reemerged, there was definitely a very, very heavy sort of, gee, what would you call that? I don't know, tone to what he had to say about a lot of things because of this whole flat Earth issue. And yeah, personally, I think it's a massive waste of time. And why? Well, there's a bunch of reasons why. I don't really want to sit and dissect flat Earth because I don't think that that's even the issue that I was hearing
Mm-mm.
coming from Mr. Egan last night.
No.
In fact, I would like to address the issue directly of this whole infighting nonsense that keeps erupting over different things in various
Well,
splinters, let's call it, of the movements of truth.
well, Chuck, I actually, after listening to Vinny last night, I published an article earlier today. If it's okay, I'd like to share that with your audience.
Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, I did not read it because I wanted to hear it for the first time out of your mouth.
All right. And you guys can find this on zenonthecar.com. It's Bonacci versus Egan, a flat division. For me, it's only been in the past few months since I was perusing social media when I saw a post regarding this flat earth theory going around. Like most people, I kind of snickered and kept on scrolling until that little certifiable voice in the back of my head said, "Now wait just a second. You're supposed to be an objective observer, pal. What harm would it do to hear them out?" I always want to listen to my certifiable voice. I took the time to click a few videos claiming to have proof of the earth. She's a flat. Now, before I get too deep into this, let me first lay out my position. I am more in the David Icke school, which leans that the world, no, existence itself, is a holographic simulation that our consciousness chooses to enter into for the purpose of experiencing itself, a simulation or matrix, if you will. That being said, I can neither take the position of a globalist or that of a flat earther because, from my view, the world will be whatever shape the collective consciousness wants it to be. For the past 500 years, the collective consciousness has decided that the world was round, and poof, she's round. So if tomorrow the collective consciousness decides that the world is flat, well, then reality will bend to suit a flat Earth. If I'm correct in saying that reality is in fact a virtual reality in need of programming, then the shape of the Earth is completely at the discretion of the programmers. For the most part, that is all of us as a collective, and I would go so far as to say that even a few individuals of a certain level of consciousness. So the question isn't if the Earth is round or flat, it's what shape is it right now? I will say that my entire life I've had to depend on what I was taught in public school and the information given out by NASA, Star Trek, and every other tidbit of science fiction I can get my hands on. So obviously my understanding of the cosmos would have me conceive of the world as a globe or near globe. I really had no reason to doubt that and have gone about my life with that little nugget of galactic goodness in my pocket. I joined the so-called truth movement not too long after we were told that jet fuel could melt steel beams and quickly discovered that the truth movement was not limited to false flag terrorism, rather including truth in all different fields. That means that truth seekers want to know the skinny on everything from secret cabals in government, disclosure of extraterrestrial life, who killed Princess Diana, and where the hell did Elvis go. So I suppose it was a matter of time before the shape of the Earth came back up. After all, we were lied to about everything else. Why not the heliocentric model? A lot of the evidence I've seen from flat earthers is indeed compelling. I myself have seen countless hours of YouTube videos making the case for a disc-shaped world beneath our feet, but is that enough to convince me? Nope. But to be fair, NASA can't convince me it's a globe, an egg, or a pier either. As I've said before, the only way I will know is if I personally buy a rocket ship and see it for myself. I'm a believer in first-hand experiential knowledge, and until my eyes can behold the world from space, I won't take a position one way or another. However, as a philosopher, I will say that I think that the discussion is worth having and should be had with a sense of civility amongst those who may disagree. If one side begins calling the other side insane or heretical, then we've left civility in the dust. After all, one of the contributors here at zenonthecar.com is a staunch flat earther, and I obviously am not. But as you all know, this site is structured around the notion that several points of view can come together and reason in peace. ZenonTheCar.com as a whole does not take the position of a flat earth model or a globe model, but in the tradition of intellectual freedom, it does allow all sides to express themselves. Unfortunately, this has not been the case all throughout the truth movement, and sadly, shots of ridicule have been shot across lines. Not too long ago, I had the pleasure of interviewing Santos Bonacci of UniversalTruthSchool.com, a teacher of astrotheology, syncretism, comparative religions, and now the flat earth theory. While making my objective position clear, I did want to allow Santos the opportunity to make the case for his beliefs for the benefit of my audience, in hopes that they would simply make up their own mind. While I disagreed with some that he said, I also agreed with much that he said, but I simply don't believe it is the place of us in the public eye or those of us behind the microphone to issue dogma and doctrine. Our place is to offer ideas and trust that the most buoyant ones will float in the minds of others seeking the truth. With that mission in mind, I allowed Santos to discuss his beliefs on flat Earth without ridicule, accusations, a demeaning attitude, or ad hominem attacks. Sadly, this has not been the case across the board. From my understanding, a feud amongst flat earthers and globalists has arisen, causing much unneeded strife in the whole of the truth movement. This rift is evident in the recent back and forth between Santos Bonacci and Max Igan, two men I equally respect, which makes it all the more difficult for someone like me that chooses to remain neutral in the debate. It is my understanding that these two gentlemen were once good friends, and this debate over what shape the friggin' earth is has caused an upset in that relationship. Both sides have gone on air spitting venom at one another for taking or not taking a certain position, and as someone who's learned from both of these men, I have to say it is a sad thing for me to see them slinging mud at one another over an issue that simply does not call for it. Like the debate of the shape of the earth on the issue of Egan versus Bonacci, I will not bow to team mentality here either. I would urge all of you to do the same and simply stay out of it without affiliating yourself behind Team Egan or Team Bonacci. The last thing the truth movement needs is a civil war. We've already taken too many lumps in the past few months in other areas. At best, I think it would behoove all of us to request that both parties, Santos Bonacci and Max Igan, bury this silly little hatchet as soon as possible so that we can remain unified as a movement and take on the real villains out there. The information put out there by flat earthers is just as valuable as the information put out by globalists, and we can't go around throwing babies out with bathwater if we wish to get anywhere at all. Likewise, for anyone spending countless hours in keystrokes and threads regarding the topic, I would ask you to show a little bit of civility, because regardless of the shape of the earth, it still needs our help. How about we save it first, and then with the freedom we attain, study its shape later? The debate, by my estimation, is a distraction to sidetrack all of us with eyes to see and ears to hear. While I don't consider Santos or Max to be leaders in a leaderless movement, I do consider them to be valuable researchers and activists in their respective fields and want nothing more than to see them unite in what they agree on and disagree on matters they don't with a class of gentlemen. If they can manage to do that in haste, then we as a movement can combine our research and findings, regardless of what side of the aisle you're on, and maybe come up with something completely new that is yet to occur to any of us. Be well, and when you disagree, disagree with dignity.
Now, isn't that the interesting point here? And just by the way, for the record, I did invite Max Egan to appear on this show tonight. He declined to do so. Okay. So I just want that known. Um, I was in contact with him, did tell him that I intended to have Santos on to discuss the issue. And he did not wish to participate. Very simple. Um, now, that being said, the reason why I wanted to do it was not to have these two gentlemen argue with each other, but actually to have a civil discourse that would occur because both of them have contributed some rather fascinating information, as far as I'm concerned, have contributed some real truth in a world that is quite in need of it. Um, now, I'm not going to specify which ends of the spectrum I would say are extremely valuable from each of these two gentlemen, but I will say that as an observer who doesn't feel as though I have any sort of friendship or relationship with either one of them, so there's no preconceived loyalty here. I would say that both of them have contributed some rather valuable information over time. Okay, now the reason why I say that when it comes to Santos has to do with the syncretism, the relationships, the interrelated paths that different religious faiths share, things like that. This has been part of my belief system long before I discovered this gentleman, and it was interesting to see someone else see the world in very much the same way, and in fact elaborate upon it. Now, that's something that I haven't done on this show. I haven't really gone into it in depth because the problem that I've had often is that I don't want to slip into dogmatic discussions with individuals who are absolutely married to their positions based on emotional reactions, and then just have one argue with the other. It seemed to me as though that was all I could accomplish when I tried to bring these things together quite often, except, of course, when I talk to somebody like you, Daniel, where, you know what, even though in a very general, lightweight kind of sense, you could almost say that you have a Christian based belief system. You're not opposed to the exploration of other things, other, let's just say, things that are contradictory to your belief system. You're willing to explore those and discuss them civilly, even if they completely cut across the grain of what it is you believe in your heart and your mind. So I can have these discussions with you.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't say that I'm primarily. I mean, sure, I would say that I entered the maze of the Minotaur through the doors of Christianity, but that maze has taken me to many different faiths.
Oh, no, absolutely. But what I'm saying is that a lot of what you talk about, when you go back to a lot of things, you start to discuss, Christians.
Yeah, I go back home to the Bible. Yeah.
Yeah, you often do, and there's a reason why that is part of the baseline. Let's just say of your belief systems. Okay, it doesn't mean that they're not evolving. It doesn't mean that they're not changing. But this is part of the one of the cornerstones. Let's just say of your belief system begins with that.
Mhm.
It's a point of reference. But even if I have a discussion with you about it, some things that are even remotely controversial, like the Council of Nicaea. We had that discussion one night and it upset people. Uh, I don't know if you remember, but I think it was you commenting that, and I loved when you brought it up, that at one point they had actually put books on a floor
Yeah,
and essentially decided that whichever books jumped to the top of the table, those would be the ones that they would add to the Bible.
yeah. That
And
that that didn't work out too good.
yeah, and since that didn't exactly get them a fully put together canon, they really abandoned that idea rather quickly. But it was part of the process.
Yeah, you gotta have the jumping scrolls, man.
Well, listen, if the scrolls had jumped, I would definitely have to take it a lot more seriously if they literally. Anyway. Uh, I mean, admit this, Daniel. If anybody wrote anything and you could place it under a table and without the help of any human hands or any other conditions, this thing made its way from the floor to the tabletop, you'd be impressed.
It'll certainly make me raise a Spock eyebrow, that's for sure.
But fortunately for all of us, that wasn't the case because, wow. All right. Anyway, but when we had that discussion and we were able to laugh about it and we discussed other things and we discussed, lost books and things that have not been accepted as canonical, uh, you know, issues, let's just say, in the church, so on and so forth. Like when we discussed let me think about it. Hmm, what was it? Well, it's the book of Judas. I think it's Judas's, hmm, what do they call that? I forget now. But there is a book which is essentially the book of Judas. It's like the gospel according to Judas or
Right.
something like that, and it's not obviously part of the standard Bible you're going to find anywhere. But I mean that, along with the Book of Enoch, along with a lot of other really
Uh,
fascinating scriptures.
well, even the canonical Bible says that if everything was written that the Christ had done when he was on earth, the books would fill up the earth. So there was tons and tons of scrolls that were buried in the Nag Hammadi library and in the Dead Sea that the Pope just does not want people to read. There's tons of them.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And there are tons of pieces that are not even large enough to be considered, something that would be even remotely the size of a chapter, a book, a verse. I mean, small pieces, letters, communications, things like that, that are held by the Vatican that have not been revealed to people to this day. And who knows what would happen if we could actually assemble that entire mosaic,
Mm-hmm.
right? This would literally change things. But you see, I'm taking one of your cornerstones here and I'm discussing it. I'm discussing the things that are not acceptable. I'm discussing all of these other issues and the possibilities and things like that. And you notice I don't get this reaction from you where, well, you're just being foolish or you're saying things that are, out of line because it cuts across what I believe or anything like that. I think you and I could have a conversation about anything on this level, even being in completely diametrically opposed camps. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, I mean, the way that a fundamentalist told me one time, because I do read these extra biblical things and I take them for what they are. But I was told, look, uh, God's going to give you a little bit of wisdom. If that starts with the Bible, fine. And if you pursue more, okay, then move on to the book of Enoch and then move on to the Gospel of Tom, the Gospel of Judas and Thomas and all that. But, look, basically, there are some people, Chuck, who just aren't ready for it. They're not ready for it. And they want to stick to their 66 books and the interpretation that their preacher gives them, and they're not going to listen to anything you have to say or any other book that you read from. Like anybody who's ever opened up the Bhagavad Gita, they know it's the exact same thing as the Bible. It's just different words.
Right. I mean, you take a look at the story of Gilgamesh, you have extreme syncretism between that and the story of Christ. You have different Egyptian lore, which can be lined up if you think about, individuals being dead for 3 days and rising.
Well,
Uh,
we just celebrated Ishtar, and what is Ishtar?
yeah.
It's about a virgin giving birth to the sun's son, the son of the sun. So it's like what Santos teaches syncretism, and it's unfortunate because he's such a has such a wealth of knowledge in combining these different schools of thought. It's unfortunate with this whole recent thing that you're going to have certain people who are going to line up either behind the globe model or the flat model, and they're going to say, "Well, I'm not going to listen to anything Santos has to say." Period.
Mm.
And that's that baby getting thrown out with the bathwater, and that's what I'm afraid of. I'm afraid that people who primarily listen to Santos are going to completely ignore anything that Max Igan ever has to say again, which would be completely ignorant. And then again, I'm afraid that people on Egan's side are going to look at Santos and throw out everything that he says and not look at his information. And that is not us progressing anywhere.
Well, right, because people need to respect not only the conclusions of individuals who appear to be learned or who are actually learned in a particular field or in multiple fields, but they also have to understand that there is a process here.
Hmm.
Okay, and through that process, I mean, I've tried to explain this many times. I have a level of expertise in certain areas, and of course, one of them is the Kennedy assassination. There have been points at which I believed certain things based on the evidence that I had examined that I have come to later on abandon and, in fact, almost feel embarrassed about thinking that this was even a remote possibility. And we're talking about, 6 seconds in history here,
Hmm.
right? Not something that is even as wide or as expansive as an issue like, the shape of the globe and the amount of deception it would require, the amount of individuals being in lockstep it would require to continue if it were a lie
Hmm.
that, the shape of the planet is not in some way spherical. Okay, I'll just put it that way. If it's not in some way spherical, then you're talking about a very long-standing program that could be revealed by someone deconstructing it. Okay, we generally find that there's holes in these sorts of things,
Hmm.
and that is a long process. That's not something that anybody's going to do. I got to tell you, in the space of a year, in the space of 2 years, okay. Um, and I found it fascinating that this sort of emerges now.
Yeah.
Okay, and here I go with my conspiratorial mindset, right? And I'm just doing this out loud with you, Daniel, because I get a chance to do it. I'm probably going to revisit this with Santos a little bit when he joins us.
Hmm.
But when I look at it, I think to myself that this would be a very, very large agreement between a lot of entities, a lot of bodies. There has to be a lot of redacted history. There has to be a lot of manufactured and manipulated history, and that in and of itself is something that I don't think is impossible.
Right.
Because I believe that the majority of what we consider to be our history, and I don't care if you found it on the internet or in your local library. What's a library, Chuck? Anyway, back to it. I don't care where you found it. A lot of it is being manipulated. A lot of it has been manufactured, and a lot of it is just spurious to begin with.
Right. Well,
Now,
whenever I had Santos on my show, I said, just because they taught me that it was a globe from kindergarten is reason enough for me to, at the very least, question it.
that's right. That's right. And I see it emerging, though, this argument emerging at a time when we're very quietly, in my estimation, making a lot of progress. There are something like, 300 times the internet radio shows, blog sites, etc., that have gone up in the past 3 years
Hmm.
that are moving in the same sort of direction that we are. And I say the same sort of direction. It doesn't necessarily mean that I'm in agreement with all of it or anything like that. But what I'm telling you is that this stuff has gone up anywhere from, depending on your estimates, 300 to 3,000 times
Hmm.
what it was 3, 4 years ago.
Right.
Okay. This indicates progress. This stuff doesn't exist on the internet without people listening to it, without people paying attention to it, without it being tracked somehow, without it being visited. So, that, when coupled with the fact that your history channels don't have the budgets they used to because they don't have the viewership they used to have, your commercial networks need to turn to somebody like Donald Trump to ratchet up their evening news ratings, et cetera, et cetera. You know what? We have a climate now where, if the numbers are truthfully reported, the alternative has replaced what is the mainstream.
Right.
Period. That's it. I'm not saying we're going to. I'm not saying we're beating them. I'm telling you it's done.
It's already done. Yeah.
And nobody's going to announce that, you know, but I will. We have already done that. That's the case now. There are more people receiving information from shows like mine, and I don't mean mine because I don't have a huge audience, but if you put all the guys that are even remotely like me doing podcasts, blogs, vlogs, YouTube channels, if you put all of us together, we beat their memberships, their viewerships, excuse me, easily.
Oh yeah, we dwarf them.
Dwarf them. Okay. Now, if we could get along for the most part, in some way, if we could cooperate a lot more, they'd be gone. They'd be dust. They wouldn't even exist anymore as the shadows of their former selves.
Hmm.
All right. And I think that this is an effort which is absolutely necessary. Now, you're thinking to yourself, maybe, well, he got way away from the flat earth thing. No, I'm not done. I find it interesting that this particular argument looks like it was introduced into the situation to cause the unrest that it has.
I don't know. I don't. I'm going to have to slightly disagree with you.
Okay.
I don't think that the flat Earth controversy was injected as the psychological operation to cause division. I wasn't around when it first popped up. Evidently it's been around for a couple of years building steam. What I do believe is that the division and argumentative, venom-spitting nature of it was injected. I mean, up until now, I've been able to sit with other people in the truth movement and have friendly disagreements. So why would flat Earth versus global Earth cause people to start going at each other's throats? I think that that was injected, but the idea of research, of making of popping the question, hey, is it flat or is it round? We were lied to about everything else. I don't think that that was injected, but I do think that the animosity was injected. Now that could have started with government paid trolls on a thread somewhere and it exponentiated. I don't know, but everything, like they say in that movie Prometheus, big things always start small. It could have been one guy in a chat room that called another guy a douchebag, and I think that was injected, but I don't think that the question of what shape is the Earth was what was injected.
Okay, well, here's why I disagree with you. When you take a look at the Rand Corporation studies, when you take a look at Cass Sunstein's white paper about the strategies of causing discord among individuals who are conspiracy theorists, who are somewhat subversive, who are not in line with the official stories. In fact, one of the very strategies that was spoken of directly before Sunstein, looking at some of these PSYOP studies that they were doing, in the early 2000s, I mean, just right before and after 9/11, when you take a look at some of those studies, they literally mentioned flat Earth.
Really?
They literally mentioned flat Earth as one of those things. It was done in an offhanded way to explain that this was the argument that used to be able to tear people apart, that this worked very well. In fact, in the JFK research community, flat Earth was being discussed in the 90s. And why? Because it was like the offhanded, well, listen, believing, and literally this was a statement, you can find it at old conferences, at the S conferences and things like that. In order to believe that Lee Harvey Oswald is your lone shooter, you practically have to join the Flat Earth Society.
Well, Chuck,
Okay.
Chuck, Chuck, I disagree with you. I'm not going to look at any of your research, and you're an asshole.
That's fine, because I am.
No,
But
but do you see the ridiculousness of it?
no problem. I got you. But either way, I am an a-hole. It's all right. It's all right.
No, but actually, in all reality, no, I didn't know that. Send me that research, and I'll look at it. See, that's how a civil exchange is done.
There you go. See, now we're gonna wind up looking at some of these psychological studies and things, and I think nobody's publishing on this either. By the way, nobody's mentioning this stuff that there were these other corporations that turned around and did studies. Now, I can't figure out who funded the studies, by the way,
Mhm.
but when you take a look at these different papers that were introduced, and some of them peer reviewed in psychological journals in 1999 and 2000, 2001. I think 2003, I saw a bunch of it as well, right before the 40th anniversary of the Kennedy assassination, because that's what it was related to for me. Yeah, they literally mentioned the Flat Earth Society.
Yeah, make sure you
And
send that to me because look, dude, like I've said millions of times before, I'm an objective observer. There's compelling evidence on both sides of the fence, and I'm just, like I said, I'll look at all of it. And if you're somebody who's, before you can gain knowledge, you first have to admit ignorance. You got to humble yourself and say, I did not know that.
well, and here's the great thing is that I'm willing to say this now. I leave the geocentric or a flat Earth question as an open question because guess what? I feel very much the same way you do. I can't definitively say anything unless I'm going to buy myself a rocket and go up and look at it for
Yeah,
myself. I know their line of sight arguments are no good, but again, it doesn't mean that the whole
yeah.
discussion is no good. You can destroy that easily if you understand optics, if you understand the way the human eye actually receives information.
Mhm.
Yeah, you can destroy that part of the argument without too much effort, unless you want to say that all of that scientific evidence is no good as well, which is what happens a lot of times too.
Mhm.
And then we enter a realm where everything is fake and therefore everything is part of the matrix. And if that is the case, then all of what we're doing here is just a great deal of psychological and emotional masturbation
Mhm.
in order to keep ourselves busy while we're in the pods. So, welcome to it. Anyway, we are just about a half hour deep into the show. So, do you think it's about time that we should introduce Mr. Bonacci into the discussion?
I think that'd be a good idea.
All right. I want to talk with him about this as well. Okay, because personally, and again, not about the flat Earth thing, but about the idea of working together.
Right.
You know,
Well, I mean, it's a very critical moment in human history and human evolution right now for us to kind of be going off into two different camps or multiple different camps when we're so close. We're so close with this exponentiation of information with the advent of the internet. We are so close to achieving something that right now is really not the time, especially for figureheads like Santos and Max, to go to loggerheads with one another and cause unnecessary strife. It's not needed, I mean, it's really not needed, especially right now when we're as close as we are to blowing the lid off of so many things, you know. And it's like it's like perpendicular lines. We're not all going in the exact same direction, but where we meet, X marks the spot, man, and that's what we really have to focus on. I mean, for 2,000 years, look at all the wars that have been perpetuated by people who argue over semantics. You know, it's 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 a horrible thing, and I hope that we learn from the mistakes of the past.
mm. Well, right now, actually, I'm having a little trouble bringing him on in. So, look at that. You know what? There is something very weird going on with Skype. And I'll tell you why. A few people are reporting to me that they're no longer my contacts that were my contacts. And that's unusual, folks, because I didn't kick anybody off of my Skype. Just want everybody to know that. But I've just had to send him a message and tell him to accept my contact request.
That might be the problem.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Well,
Might have to do with your relocation.
but it shouldn't, because it's the same computer, it's the same router right at this moment. That will change in a couple days. It'll be the same computer on a totally different router, but don't know what's happening. Anyway, how about if you type a message to him and let him know to accept my contact request, because for some reason he might not be seeing it.
Will
Or
do.
maybe we have a problem with the time. It is a different time there in Oceania. A different day probably too for them as well. So I wonder to myself sometimes, about that, because the first time I tried to have somebody on here from, I think, let me think about that. He might have been from, I think he was from Australia actually, and it was a different day. He was calling me like 10 minutes before he was supposed to be on the show. And his name is Greg Parker. He was a JFK guy. And I've got some disagreements with him about Oswald and stuff, but I wanted to talk to him. And this is like 2 years ago. And he's planning on being on my show like the next day, thinking that it's his Saturday when it's my Saturday, which I
All
don't
right.
know. It was really weird.
Santos should be accepting your friend request or your Skype request now.
Good deal.
Do you want to tell? Have you let your audience know about your relocation, or is that still top secret?
No, it's not top secret anymore. I definitely have let them know that I'll be on the road on Friday, and well, we're not going to discuss the details of it at the moment
Hmm.
for certain reasons. But let's just say that I'll be on the road and I'll be on my way to Georgia from North Carolina, because I'm still sitting in the eastern part of North Carolina, no longer in the house I had occupied, but still in the same region. Anyway, yeah, I'll be in I swear I'm going to post on Facebook. The devil went down to Georgia on Friday before I leave.
I think I beat you to
Oh, you did?
it. Yeah.
Did you put up the guitar version or the fiddle version?
It was the Primus version.
Oh, nice. Even better. Oh, I forgot about that. See, this is why I'm friends with Daniel, by the way.
We like peas and carrots, Charles.
We was like peas, carrots. Oh my. Run, Daniel, run. Man, oh man. What we're gonna do down in Georgia though, it's gonna be an interesting little stay there to begin with, and we'll be relocating the familia shortly thereafter, but it's going to take at least 30 days before that happens. So for a little while, I'll
You'll
be
be,
broadcasting without.
you'll be broadcasting from the Starship's Enterprise.
I didn't know if you wanted to specifically say, but yeah, that's exactly where I'll be. I'll be sitting there looking at Daniel and going, "Yeah, man, what time is it? Oop, got to go do a show." And I know we're going to have some fun too. And can't wait to meet you guys down in Georgia, by the way. Looking very forward to going there. And I have not been to Georgia in many, many years. The last time I was there was a couple of strip clubs. Now, I wasn't there going and checking out the strippers. No, sir, believe it or not, they used to have this setup where they only had, like, say, three girls dancing in these, sawdust joints. And what they would do is they would put musicians on while the girls took breaks. Now, you want to talk about a job you never ever want to take as a musician? Yeah.
Job at a strip club.
Well, no, it's fine to be at a strip club. As a matter of fact, if you got a strip club that's willing to have a live band, I would say take the job. It's got to be fun. It's got to be enjoyable. But here's the thing. If the guy booking you explains that you're going to play during the girls' breaks and that they serve alcohol, run. Because all it is angry dudes really, really pissed off that you're on the stage and the girls aren't.
Yeah.
Okay. And I don't even know if they do that anymore. God.
You're asking the wrong guy.
Yeah. Well, I know you don't go to strip clubs, but You know,
No.
who knows when I get down there though.
You're trying to corrupt me, Mr.
I
Ochelli.
I am definitely going to corrupt you some. Oh man, it's,
Madness is like gravity. It just takes a little push.
there you go. Oh my. Okay. You know, I keep sending him the message like accept the Skype.
I keep sending him a message too. He's on. He's online. I do know he has a toothache, so that might be messing with him a little.
Oh, might be holding him up a little bit. That's all right. We can just keep talking about strip clubs. But this is the kind of thing that's going to happen. I know the show is going to sound a little different. We're gonna do some stuff to the website while we get together in between having a little fun, and you know we're going to take care of some business. That's for sure. But it's going to be part of my adventure. I haven't traveled on my own in quite a while, actually, so it's going to be interesting.
Mm. And you're going to be stepping into my insane world.
And you know I'm looking very forward to it. I don't want to say too much about what I'm looking forward to or what's going on down there because I'm really just keeping a complete open mind and just showing up with a bag that has a couple of changes of clothes and my computer stuff in it, and we're just gonna go from there.
Well, I'll tell you, everybody knows that I take care of my mom, and I was setting up your quarters so you can, have your whole setup in your studio or whatever in there, and I was, adding some atmosphere. And my mom, she's from Tailfair County. Santos is saying that he can't see anything, Chuck, as far as a Skype request.
Oh, that's crazy.
Santos Bonacci, no space, is his handle.
Well, tell you what I'll do.
Hmm?
I will do it again.
Okay. Anyway, so I was putting up some atmosphere for your quarters there, and she says, "Don't put up anything that's going to scare him." And I said, "Mom, he's a high priest in the pagan church." She goes, "Oh, okay."
Well, yeah. Well, see, okay. There's the funny thing is that yeah, I've got it. I've sent it, and guess what?
There you go. I just sent you the handle there. We'll work it out, folks.
Yeah, eventually. Yipes. Okay.
If this is any indication of our future working relationship, Charles, I think we're in trouble.
Yeah, yeah. This could be a problem. Wow. Okay. Now I have done this a few times now. Yeah, that's hmm, so strange. Well, anyway, but no, we're gonna definitely have a good time when we get there. Hopefully, the shows will run better than this. Got 5 nights a week of this. I don't think anybody's gonna want to listen to it. But
Mm.
anyway, we could always go into another direction. Not a problem. Um, yeah, it's hysterical, man. I've got other people requesting to join into the call, and I have sent it to them several times, and still not seen them.
This is what we call dead air.
Yeah, I know that.
So
Oh,
a ham sandwich walks into a bar and orders a beer, and the bartender says, "Sorry, we don't serve food here."
nice.
Greatest joke ever.
I like that one.
Yeah.
I definitely like that one. So, your radio host walks into a bar. 3 hours later, he wakes up.
Yeah. So, somebody asked Anthony Hopkins if he wanted to have a drink. He's an alcoholic. He says, "No, I got to work next month."
Yeah, right. Let's see.
Okay, he said he had just accepted it.
Well, then that'll work now.
All right.
There we go.
Hello.
There he is. See,
Oh,
I got to tell you, it only took 10 minutes or so, but
oh God.
hey, look, I meant to bring you in earlier, sir. I did not mean to keep you waiting, but I thought you were on my list already. And apparently, a couple of people have been removed from it or whatever. So I sent another contact request, and you didn't see it. Weird.
Yeah.
Anyway, the games they play, Microsoft and all their associated partners.
Exactly. Exactly. They are tricksters. They are in the business of control, brother.
Exactly. So I don't know if you've listened to part of the conversation we were having before we descended into a discussion about strip clubs and things, but and that was just to fill time while I was trying to get you. Uh, but we were talking about, first of all, the flat Earth situation. The fact that it is an extremely divisive point. We of course referenced the situation between yourself and Max Igan, who I did invite to appear on this show with you tonight. He declined, just so you know that.
Hmm.
I always believe in full disclosure, so I don't play games. Um, but the thing to me that is most relevant about this is as follows, and I want to let Daniel speak to this as well. And you and I have not actually had a conversation together before. So this is the first time, and it's always good to meet you, and especially because you have a vowel at the end of your name. So therefore, it's always a good thing. I, I know you and I share somewhat of an ethnic background in a way.
Watch it, guys. I'm Irish.
Yeah, well, see, but that's where my other grandparents come from, so it's all right. Um, I got that half and half thing, which means I'm completely crazy. And as far as people being called insane and all that other wonderful stuff, welcome to the asylum Earth, as far as I'm concerned, because this is a crazy place. So unless you are insane, you can't possibly function here. Let's just leave that at that. Anyway, back to it. The divisive issue, the fact that you guys had gone back and forth and all that, it makes me feel bad, and I'll tell you why. I find value in the work that you have done. I do not agree with the flat Earth thing. Okay, I leave it as a somewhat open question, but I'm not prepared to commit to it. Just so you know, um, and I'm also not prepared to accept that I haven't been lied to about the situation my whole life either. All right, I think that both of these things are great possibilities. Um, but back to it again, it's not about that for me. It's about the value of a lot of the other work that you have done, a lot of the other truth that you have spoken, a lot of the other good stuff you have done. And I think that Max has also contributed a great deal of good stuff over time. And I have been, a distant observer. I haven't been really friendly with either one of you or in contact in any significant way with either one of you. Just as a distant observer and someone who is in search of the better idea, the better truth, the evolution, the exploration into the reality that is around us. I find both of you to be valuable people, and I don't like seeing the two of you at odds with each other, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Look, I won't be partaking in it anymore. I certainly won't. I don't like it, and it doesn't. It's not conducive to forward advancement of the human race, to ascension, to liberation, freedom. It's not. We can put our heads together and we can sort out the truth if we put love first. My actions have not been very loving. I do stupid things. Yes, I admit I'm an idiot. And I should never grab a dog by the ears while it's, as the scriptures say, the fool is the one who grabs a fighting dog by the ears, because you're only going to get bitten. So um, I can guarantee you and assure you that I won't be a part of that anymore. I don't know what possessed me to attack these guys who I think are not prepared to look at the evidence. And the reason being is because I feel that what's happening in the truth movement, I don't call it alternative media. I don't subscribe to that. I never considered myself to be part of the alternative media, quote unquote. I'm a truther.
Right.
And what I think is going on is there is a materialist mindset and there is a spiritual mindset. We are spiritual beings having a material experience, but we do have a material mind and we have a spiritual mind. All the scriptures tell us this. This is not new. This is not my teaching. It's not opinion. This is how we are constructed. And I feel that these good truthers like Max Igan and all of these other guys, all of them who have contributed, as you say, Charles, they have, and they've done good work. And I've been liberated very much by Max's material in the past, and so forth. I think what is happening is the materialist mind is controlling some of us still, and that's what that's what you can liken to the education system. There is a herd mind. There is, and the herd mind still wants us to be on a spinning globe. Now, science and all the sacred scriptures and legends and traditions and cosmologies have nothing to do with the globe at all whatsoever. So I've aligned myself with the spiritual mind because of all the spiritual texts, all of them, the Mayans, the Hindus, the Egyptians, Babylonians, all of them. It's all a plane. I won't say flat because it's not flat. It's a plane Earth. We live on a planet. There's no doubt about that, and I can give you some evidences that will help you to shift from that. I don't know what to call it. I suppose it's our education. We have been indoctrinated. We've been hammered with the globe. Who by? Well, the globalists, and people with a globe agenda, and you can see them. You can see who they are. I believe they are a blend of Venetian, Phoenician, Canaanite, Khazarian, Hyksos. There you go. So the Khazarians with all the money and the desire to conquer Europe, mixed with the Venetian Guelphs. The Guelph family spills into all of those royal bloodlines, the Windsors, the Rothschilds. They're all Guelphs. They're all black nobility. So the black nobility has mixed with the Roman bloodlines, who are Pharaonic and Babylonian and Persian, Medo-Persian, and Greek. Lots of Greek there.
Yep.
And the Khazarians have mixed in with it, and they've made a world of dumbing down human beings. And they do this through all of everything. They pull out all their guns. Education has dumbed us down. They're not there to enlighten us in our institutions. And other things which I call demonic, simply because they're not from grassroots human divine sources, such as meat eating. The ingesting of dead corpses, putrefying flesh, is truly dumbing us down. The food of the human being and all the sacred scriptures and all of the ancient traditions concur is fruits and vegetables. There's no doubt about this. There's no way flesh can be any part of human consumption. And so these habits that we have, these habits that are so ingrained, and we cherish them and still go by them and live in such a way is really doing us harm. So all I want to do is lovingly share that truth with people.
And I appreciate that. I got to tell you, though, that it is a process, right? I don't consider myself to be part of the alternative media either. Okay, I don't like that term. I never have. That's why. I mean, look at my website. I call myself the Alternatives Alternative, for a reason. And the thing is, I am incrementally coming to certain understandings, but I've also had to incrementally come to certain misunderstandings. You know what I'm saying? Like on occasion, I had to learn about certain things to understand that it was a big lie. And meat eating.
The more you know, the more you don't know.
Yeah, that's the funny part too, right? And like meat eating is one of these things that I am struggling with at the moment, to be honest with you. And it's because it was one of those acceptable things my entire life. It was part of just everything. I mean, there's no place where meat eating wasn't there. And meanwhile, I'm starting to have a problem with it.
I could tell you right now, as a former carnivore, I was a pescatarian for a long time and I slipped. But after that last conversation that I had with Santos, I was like, I need to get back on the wagon, and I have eliminated meat. And in just 3 weeks, I can tell a major shift in my thinking, in my emotions, in my physical body, just, with the elimination of meat.
Yeah, see, I started by eliminating some of that. But I mean, and here's the thing, you're not even a carnivore, because a carnivore would eat something that's freshly killed. You know, you're what would you call that, Santos? The fact that you're eating something that's been dead a while.
Well, look, if it's natural, it's like this. You pick it off a tree and you can put it straight in your mouth without salt, pepper, condiments, oils, vinegar, tasty things, additives, cooking, blah blah blah. So an apple is just, oh wow, a banana, the perfume of it, the smell, it's just beautiful. It's
Well,
unnatural to meat because you grab a steak raw and just try and eat it. It doesn't work.
that's true. And listen, we're going to get more into this and other topics in the second hour with Santos Bonacci and Daniel Louis Crumpton on the Ochelli Effect. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. And the second hour begins on the Ochelli Effect, broadcast live on American Freedom Radio at AmericanFreedomRadio.com. Of course, if you are tuned into some other affiliate, or if you caught us further on down the stream, you are also very much appreciated. Now, the fact is that I generally throw in to the first couple of seconds of the second hour a little plug for number one, American Freedom Radio. There is a donate banner there on the homepage. You go there, there's a little banner that says help us grow. You can go there, click on it, contribute what you feel is, hey, what you're getting. I mean, listen, if you're getting some value out of the programming here, then it's incumbent upon you to do so. And it's pretty easy if you've got a PayPal account. Of course, I also can use a little bit of help at this time if you go to Ochelli.com, Ochelli.com. And there's also a donate tab there. There's some free stuff there, and there's a member section as well, which has material which is not available on the live show. However, the home for the live show is at American Freedom Radio, so I tell you that first. Anyway, my very special double guests this evening, Santos Bonacci, which we were able to get a hold of toward the end of the second hour. We meant to bring him in sooner, though. Little problems with the Skype and telling us that we don't have contact with people that we had contact with and things like that. And Daniel Louis Crumpton, ZenInTheCar.com, author of Then Came the Flood, my friend and soon to be roommate, as we were talking about the first hour. We're gonna hang together for a little bit. Won't be a permanent situation.
It's gonna be fun,
but we're gonna have some fun. So
hopefully not ending at the Perry Detention Center.
Well, listen, we already talked about the arrangements for bail money, and all right. Anyway. It's going to be necessary. Santos, I don't think you know what you stepped into tonight with me and Daniel, but I do appreciate you taking this time, and I'm really happy to have heard what you had to say in the first hour. You kind of got cut off as we started discussing meat, and I was saying, when you think about people that are basically being carry-on eaters by eating something which has been long dead, I have not extracted meat completely from my diet, right? But it is something that I'm building toward. And like I said, some of these changes, you don't make them all overnight. It doesn't matter if you've been convinced of something historically, if you're convinced of the conditions of the world around you. A lot of things, they don't arrive right away in a great epiphany that causes a cascading group of actions. Sometimes these things are arrived at through a process, and you were speaking to that process a little bit when it comes to the meat and things like that. And I am discovering, and I'm extracting incrementally different elements of carry-on from my diet, and trying to improve my health, of course, but also trying to improve what I believe is my own spiritual health as well, not just physical. And I think that'll be part of the process as well. I think I'm going to have to completely eliminate it from my diet. And you were talking about how, things that can be picked from a tree, things that can be taken from a plant, immediately eaten. Doesn't that seem a whole lot more natural and logical, in fact, Santos.
Yeah, yeah. All fruits are already provided with smells to excite the taste buds and water the mouth and get all the saliva and juices, pre-digestive juices flowing. Meat never does this. I mean, you just think, slice a piece of dead carcass and look at it, dripping with blood. And would you put your teeth to that flesh? Would you just sort of carve a hole into the back of a dead animal and just bite away like a lion does? Well, you wouldn't, because there's nothing there appealing and exciting. It's totally not a human practice. It's not a human way. Sure, we see some indigenous races that indulge in cannibalism and the way they eat animals raw and everything like that. But this, again, is a symptom of the age we've just come through in the world. We, unfortunately, have just come through the Kali Yuga, the Iron Age. We are much better than this. And in those ages where gold, silver, and copper reign and prevail, our senses are also higher, and we obey and we live by the harmonious energies of those conditions. So there has been a fall. There's no one to blame here. We can't go being too judgmental and being so brutal to in any of this, because
Can I
we've all fallen. We all practice things that are not so good.
can I ask you this, Santos?
Hmm.
And of course, I agree with you about veganism. But what would you say to, say, fundamentalist Christians who would quote from the Book of Acts where Peter's up on the roof, and I don't know if you remember this part where the blanket comes down from heaven because they haven't had anything to eat, and there's all four-footed animals on the blanket, and Peter says, "Oh no, Lord, I've never eaten anything unclean," and God said, "Don't call unclean what I have deemed clean. Now you can eat meat." Essentially, what would you say to fundamentalists who would quote that scripture to you?
Yeah, well, this is where they pick and choose. The scriptures clearly say, "Thou shalt not kill," and killing is um, the general law of the universe. There's only one sin, really. In if you look at all uh, the philosophies of the world, and they all have an aversion to killing in their philosophies, in their teachings, and yet you see they seem to turn a blind eye when it comes to killing for the sake of their bellies. Well, you know, probably one can be forgiven if needs to eat something because, and it's an animal, because there's a drought and there's no apples growing on the tree. Probably, this can be done in a holy way. One can pray over the animal, I guess, and go ahead and do that. I wouldn't do that. I would rather die, and I know that I've gone way beyond that, where I will never put any flesh of a sentient being in my lips. But I'm not going to judge someone who is out in the wilderness and had to, kill some rodents and some rabbits and what have you. No, I will not do that. And if I did, well, it'll only bring harm to me for being judgmental, and I'll have to live with that myself. But looking around at the abattoirs and the way animals are treated these days, we should really, all of us, earnestly, stand against that. It's horrific. It is demented. It's truly demented. And I don't see who gets any real benefit out of that, because, Seneca, um, Pythagoras, all the greats that were ever greats were vegans, and they all ever said that diseases come from dishes. Diseases come from dishes. And the more exotic the dish, the more the diseases. So we don't benefit from it anyway. We're just sustaining ourselves for a few more days, really, by eating any kind of flesh.
Mm.
Fruit's the best way to go, guys. By the way, fruit is definitely the best way to go. Raw fruit and cooked vegetables would probably be the best way to eat for a human being. Cooked vegetables because of the cellulose problem and not being able to be assimilated through digestive processes as well as fruit. Fruit just goes straight through you, which means it's our food. It's digestible so easy. But vegetables not so. So that's what I would say. But I'm not here to give any advice on diet. Just what I know from everyone else that you could call knowledgeable on the subject.
Well, what I've always found fascinating is that there is absolutely no justification in any religious construct that I've ever studied for killing, essentially, unless you are in a state of needing to defend yourself. That's what I've always observed, and I mean, it sounds almost like I'm speaking about legal practices and whatever, but I'm telling you, if you take a look at it, that's the only time that if they come to threaten you, if they come to burn down your village and you kill people, this is kind of acceptable. uh, but other than that, I've never seen it anywhere where there's murder justified for any other reason. And even then, it's actually questionable, isn't it?
It is. And scriptures like those in Acts and other scriptures where it says that I've given you meat, we really need to be very careful. The scriptures have been redacted. I'm not opposed to the scriptures. I love all the scriptures because I know how to read them. And I know where they've been tampered with. And certainly there has been a great tampering of our historical books, guys. We need to understand history's been redacted. It's been changed to suit the victors, and the victors are these. They are who we call aliens. Some call them Greys, Anunnakis, Draconians, and all of these ones who are controlling us from behind the scenes. We don't get to see these aliens, but we know that they are controlling humanity. And I believe through the studying of scriptures and the Vedas and all of these, that they come from the 7 subterranean planetary systems. It's beautiful how Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita talk about these, they call them subterranean heavenly planets, but in fact the lower ones of these are called hellish planets. And these entities that come from there and pretend to be from out of space.
Now, Santos, wouldn't that correspond with the Sephiroth from the Kabbalah?
It does, absolutely. Yes, the 10 Sephiroth have to do with the Earth, the 7 planets above, and Uranus and Neptune. They make up the 10, and they are above us. They are an octave of planets above us. I say an octave because I can explain that in a minute. And then there is an octave below us. So there are 2 octaves of planets in every universal system, according to the Vedas, for instance. The Mayans also teach this, and the Egyptians. There are 7 subterranean planets, and they are full of beings and entities and creatures, and they do come up through the North Pole, which is like the center of the plane Earth that we live on. And they have technology which far exceeds ours, and they trade technology with us for our little children, so that they can harvest them and harvest their energy. Sometimes they sacrifice them. Sometimes they eat our children after they torture them, so that they can taste all the hormones in their blood, and so that they can feel human emotions which are divine and special, which they don't have. They are void of these emotions that we are able to enjoy. And so the politicians, which are weak-minded individuals, unevolved people, do deals with them. They get money, they get power from them, and these are the ones who are controlling us. And one of their doctrines that have polluted our bloodstreams is the doctrine of eating animals for sustenance. So they would be responsible for the redacting of our scriptures to make it appear that God, the source creator, wants us to eat sentient beings. Source creator does not. And all you have to do is check the scriptures that haven't been touched, that have been so protected, like the Bhagavad Gita. That is one of the gems that we have that has been truly protected. The Indians fought off the invasions of two, with the Aryans, the so-called, and then the Muslims, and then the English. And in the southern parts of India in particular, they vehemently protected Bhagavad Gita. And in there it teaches that meat eaters are considered to be called, they're called dog eaters. And what it says there is that anyone who eats the flesh of animals will reincarnate as an animal and be eaten by carnivore animals. And this is nature. It's natural, and these are the books that haven't been redacted. So they don't make any concessions like our scriptures, which have been redacted. And even the Hebrew words and the Greek words have been mistranslated. So I'm sure in my heart that those scriptures are erroneous. But I'm not saying, throw the baby out with the bathwater, because I love the scriptures and the truth is in the scriptures. We in the West, we should love the Bible, the Hebrew scriptures and the Christian Greek scriptures. We should learn how to read them. In my astrotheological presentations, I teach how to read them. It's quite simple. Nature is simple, and so are all of our divine texts.
Would you
They're
say,
all
I'm sorry,
go
would you
go.
say that Dante Alighieri was onto something with his seven circles of hell in context of the hellish planets?
100%. These guys were syncretists,
Hmm.
for sure. For
Mm.
sure. And he explained in the Divine Comedy that there are three conditions, and there is hell and purgatory and paradise right here where we are. We don't need to go to heaven. We don't need to go to hell. We don't need to go to purgatory. It's all here. They are conditions. And they are places as well, but this is a place, is it not? We are here. We're here. I'm here. Um, but it's up to you what state, or I should say not state, I should say condition you want to live in. These are different. We should be growing from the state of planets to the state of suns. Suns are life givers. This is why the scriptures teach that one day we will go through the portal of the sun back to source, because the sun is the Christ, the Savior. And so they knew that hell is here, it's a condition, and 90% of mankind are in hell. You and I, hopefully, we're in purgatory. Purgatory has the root of P-U-R, purge, pure, purify, fire. When you burn fire, you purify it, and all the scum comes to the top. You take it away, you're left with pure gold. Pure, purge, purgatory. Well, there's lots of words. I can't think of them now. Pyramid, P-Y-R, fire in the middle. It's the fire, the baptism of fire, which will purge us and take us out of heaven and prepare us for paradise. Paradise is around the corner, guys. I believe paradise will be here this year. 2006 is our year. The Pope, in his first motu proprio on September 1st or September 15th, 2013, he sent notice to all the corporations doing commerce, and gave them 3 years, which will expire. It's from the 1st of January, actually. It was dated back to the July of that year, and that will expire on the 30th of June. On the 30th of June, folks, there will be history in the making. Look out for it. The sun will be in Cancer, of course, the sign of economy, and basically the system is run on economy. So the sun will be there and the moon will be in Taurus. Saturn will be retrograding in Sagittarius. I'm not going to explain what all this means, but I'm just pointing to these because I know what it means. And I know that June 30th, it's only a couple of months away, corporations will either cease to exist or they will have their death blow, and we won't We will go back to doing business as companies and trading and associations. We used to trade as companies and associations. Now we're commercing as corporations. Our legal fiction name is a commerce corporate entity. This is Babylon the Great. It's the sea of admiralty waters. It is filthy and dirty, and the scriptures tell us to get out of her, my people, if you do not want to share with her in her sins. So we're going back to real barter and trade, companies and associations, brotherhoods, and it's only months away. And I believe this in my heart of hearts, and should it not transpire as such, it will be the beginning of paradise. So we've been through hell. We are in purgatory right now, otherwise we would not be purifying us through these conversations. We would not be seeking a better way to live and see the world and to understand all things. So, you know, otherwise you'd be doing something else. You'd be walking down the park having a picnic. Why would you be on the radio here talking about this? You know, why? Unless you want to purge yourself and be in a better world. We all want paradise. We all want to live happily, where we can play music and and look at each other in our eyes, eye to eye, face to face, and not have to wonder who you have to steal from to pay your interest debts and usury, which is condemned in all the scriptures. Why are we tolerating usury? Why do we have our pockets full of Rothschild Federal Reserve currency when we already have treasury money? Why are we doing this? We're killing each other. Brother cannot stand brother. Why? Because of money. Money has, interloped and stood in the way of all of our reactions. Everything is monetized. We look at each other and think, well, how can I benefit? He's got 3 SUVs. I've got a jalopy. I'm jealous. I need a good car. I need a good job. We don't. We just need to be good. We need to be as good as we can. We need to transmute and sublimate everything. We need to understand that we are light beings. We have dull light in us, and we need to sublimate the light and turn it into undifferentiated light. We need to change our truth, quote unquote, our truth, because there are people who say there is no truth. This is wrong, and um, we need to change it to absolute truth. We need to change our conditional love to unconditional love, our dim light to undifferentiated light. We need to sublimate, and we can do it. We can make this step forward, and we have to discard the lies and expose them. And one lie is definitely the globe. Whether you believe we live on a flat earth or not, that's fine. That doesn't really matter at this stage. What is a lie is the globe. We're not spinning. And it's easy. It's so easy to know this. Can I give you an example?
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. I do want to start to change. I'm really appreciating all of what you're talking about here, though, and I especially take notice of the following: that between the months of June and the months of August in this year, people from extremely divergent spiritual understandings are converging on this particular point in time. I've got to tell you that the way I recognize it as someone who is a lawful pagan, okay, is that we're looking at something at the very beginning of what you would call July, possibly to the middle, where there is a significant event which is being built up to. There is a great deal of pressure being added to the situation on a, excuse the term, global scale, and I think we're going to see something very drastic begin to happen at exactly that time. I had Richard Allen Miller, who talks about the holographic universe, on here, discussing with me that he feels as though a great change will occur around the time of August. I've had others explain to me that at the end of June, and I just heard you say June 30th. This is really fascinating to me that people are coming at this from very drastically different directions and all seeing a convergent point that is about to emerge.
Oh yeah, for sure. Well, let's talk about that first. We can do the cosmology a bit later if we've got time. I
Mhm.
was I was I was touching on the astrological. I look through the eyes of astrology because It's the mother of all sciences. And I really pity people who believe one of either two lies, that astrology is from the devil, i.e. the churchgoers, or the educated ones that say pseudoscience. I pity them. I really pity these poor, poor people.
I'm in
They
agreement
have,
with you there, by the way.
yes, they have missed everything. The whole show before their eyes has gone. It's just, they've missed it. They've
Mhm.
missed it. If you cannot understand the language, that's all it is. Astrology is a language. And if you don't have a repertoire of language skills, you just you just miss a lot. Everything to us. Reality is a series of letters, 27, 28, 29. It's either 26 to 29 through to 29. Most languages have that many letters.
Right.
And numbers. There are 9 numbers. There are really 12, but let's just satisfy the clever people who are materialists who believe in the 9 numbers. You can do both systems, but the point is this: the reality comes to us through feminine numbers and feminine letters and masculine numbers, and that's not even a good designation. There's no such thing really but there's only letters and numbers, and astrology is the mother science that teaches us how to interpret this beautiful, divine, natural system. And so when you see Pluto in June, late June, Pluto will still be there squaring with Uranus in Aries. Pluto's in Capricorn. This is the sheep and the goats. Uranus is the revolutionary. Aries is the ecclesiastical. There will be revolution in the spiritual world. See, they're squaring. A square is an aspect which is fiery. It is the humors of that aspect are hot and dry. Mars. Mars is the ruler of the square. And that's a 90-degree angle in the chart, in the circle of the ecliptic. So when Pluto, the transformer, the capitalistic energy of Pluto, the destroyer and the transformer, in Capricorn, the goat, which is the stately, the kingly, the infrastructure of the king and of politics. So in other words, Capricorn's all about politics. It's the 10th sign. 10 is the number of man, 10 fingers. It's man's establishments, his political establishments, his governments. When Pluto, the transformer and the destroyer, is squaring with Uranus, the revolutionary, the individualistic, the independent, the altruistic energy, in Aries, the Lamb of God, and these two are our. Aries is the first sign. Capricorn is the 10th. 1 and 1.
Right.
1 and 0, 10 make 1. So they're both the number ones. There's only they are the only two signs that have 1 in them. And so when they are squaring, and by the way, it's the 7th square, which is historical. You don't get 7 planets squaring off 7 times. And they've been squaring for the last 4 years. And this is the 7th and the last. I call them the 7 seals of Revelation. They will, I think they end somewhere around the end of this year. But what's happening there, this hot and dry square of this martial action kind of aggressive thing, is transforming and revolutionizing these two areas of human experience, endeavor. And
Right.
so coupled with opposite the sun in Cancer at the time, with the moon in Taurus where she exalts. So and we'll have also a kite. In astrology, for those astrologers listening, there will be a kite and a grand trine in Earth on that day, around that time. There will be massive changes in economy, Cancer, government, Capricorn, and ecclesiastical matters, Aries. All of these will be transformed, and they are being transformed daily. Look around. You know, you don't need it. You don't need to even be half-witted to see that there's massive shifts going on already. We are being prepared now. I would hold on. I'd hang on to your seats because things are going to get weird. and beautiful
Well, because
from
we're
now on.
we're entering the first sign, which is Aries, which is now.
Yep.
Okay, and I know that's my sign. Anyway, but we're also entering the time what they used to call the Legend of the Seventh Star, and it's basically a loose translation of what you just said, and that's the very same thing that's held in, for those who are pagan, Wiccan, whatever out there. Guess what? If you understand, that's the convergence. This is the beginning of the time when it starts to happen. Is right now as we're speaking, by the way. But it actually fully converges right around that time period we're talking about. And this is all by reading the astrology, by reading that language, which you can observe in the sky all by yourself. It's just a matter of being able to interpret it.
Exactly. It's been able to. It's like Japanese exists, but can you read hiragana, katakana, and kanji and romaji? They're four languages, written languages.
Mm.
Well, no, but it does exist. Is it a pseudo language? Because you can't understand it? No. And so, and do you have to believe in it to speak it? No, I speak English quite well. I don't believe in it. I just know it. And so I use it. This is how we must see these sacred sciences. Another thing that the controllers from the subterraneans have done to us is they've messed with our minds. They've played around with our sciences, which are historical and are our sciences, such as astrology, alchemy, and all of these. We've been, led to believe that we should poo-poo this, and the word pagan has a bad ring to it. It's stigmatized. Well, we're all pagans, because what it means to be pagan means to be not educated in the cities. You're a country. You come from the land, from the dirt, and so we're all pagan organically. I'm
Right.
pagan. Everyone's pagan, whether they deny it or not. They can stand around saying, "Oh no, I'm Christian. I go to church. I believe in Jesus." Well, in your heart, these are people who've got cognitive dissonance, because in their heart of hearts, they come from the earth, and they are all pagans. So I like to tell people that I'm a syncretist, which incorporates, Christianity, Buddhism, paganism, and everything, because that's how it should be. If you can't see the interrelatedness of all these fields, well then that's not my problem. That's each one's limitations.
Mm.
Um, should you want to limit yourself, well, that will be to your own harm. But everything is interrelated. So
Absolutely.
we're all syncretists at heart, and so these alignments of the heavens, they are, a lot of people who, especially the Gnostics and some of these you know alternative truthers and new agers, they like to um, claim that the archons and the cosmocrators and so forth are evil, and because the Gnostic scriptures say that this creation is an abortion, and Jehovah is a demon, and demons made this world, and blah blah blah. This is all half truth, because they read things and take them literally. They don't have the ability to understand the literary works. There's nothing literal in the Bible at all whatsoever. It's literary, just as Shakespeare uses historical characters such as Cleopatra and Julius Caesar um, to create a play. And so when you have eyes to see and ears to hear, as the scriptures say, the letter of the word killeth, but the spirit of the word vivifies. Once we grow up and sublimate and spiritualize our being, we now have new eyes to see the scriptures, and we now see the true meanings of the scriptures. And so when it says that this is an abortion and the archons are evil, well, that's just telling you, that one side of the coin is heads, and they're just focusing on the heads. They're not talking about the tail of the coin. They're just keeping the literary works to a minimum. They're just giving you ciphers. They're just giving you bits and pieces for you to use your eyes and ears to see properly. So it's not all an abortion. Yes, it's an abortion because it doesn't compare to the beauty of the causal world from whence we came. In Vrindavan, the abode of Radharani and Krishna, the beloved, everything is perfect and transcendental. Here we are, we are experiencing I don't know, a dim version of that. And so when you read in the scriptures that this is a horrible abode, which is hellish and purgatorial, well, it's only half true. And so, we need to grow up really, and be able to develop the ability to see the interrelatedness of all things.
Yeah, I found it fascinating recently. Somebody told me, and that you might find this funny, but somebody told me that the human body is much like a condom, actually preventing your spirit from having the full experience, although you get a sense of it by going
Love
through
that.
with the human body. And I kind of thought that was really clever, actually, when I thought about it. I thought he was just being funny, but it kind of works, doesn't it?
Yeah, we're seeing through a glass darkly, as the scriptures say. Um, and what we're experiencing now is just a glimmer of the glory that we are and will be and are. We already are that. The only enemy we have is ignorance, and ignorance is stopping us from seeing the glory that we are and the brotherhood that exists here and the truth that is already here on this plane. We have it all. We have it all, and it's within arms. We're at the precipice of paradise. We're at the threshold, and it will be here. There's only hope. We should not be distressing over the imposed taxes and the false flags and all of these things. We just should be looking at them and seeing how stupid and ridiculous they are and how desperate the controllers are, because they are at their end and they've been given notice. It's time up. Time up, mene mene tekel parson. Your kingdom has been weighed, you've been found wanting, and you have been judged. That's what Nebuchadnezzar or Nebuchadnezzar, um, the Babylonian king, saw written on the wall by the hand of God when the Medes and the Persians were at the Euphrates, ready to destroy Babylon. And in 1 hour, Babylon fell. And this is what's going to happen: Babylon will fall, and all the merchants of the seas and all the 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 commercial ones will wail and moan, and there will be their weeping and their gnashing of their teeth, because Babylon will fall. It has fallen. We're just seeing the beast falling. David will slay Goliath. There's no need for us to be sitting in our rooms gloomy and thinking that the controllers will prevail. The universe is all loving. It's all loving, and we will prevail.
Yeah, I've always said that ignorance is sin. If it's okay, I'd like to take it in a different direction. Is that okay, Chuck?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I wanted to get to this message I was passed about something that he wanted to get to, that was passed by a mutual friend. But go right ahead, Dan.
Hey, Santos, before we get too far, and I'm not trying to rehash it, but you did say some pretty rough stuff about Max. Do you apologize for that? And I don't mean to back you in a corner, but was what you said earlier an open apology?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Okay,
It's to everyone. I've already done that on a couple of
okay,
shows.
great,
You will notice that I'm not, attacking anyone
great.
on
Well,
Facebook. Look, the only reason I did that because, well, first and foremost, because I'm an idiot and I react.
now,
I'm Aries. I have Aries Sun and Leo Ascendant, and these are regressive animals. They're
no,
fiery. I'm very fiery, and I have to learn to grow up and stop doing that, because it only hurts me. I'm the one suffering. My health is suffering because of it, and
now,
so yeah, I do apologize.
all right. Now, the reason I asked that is because Max was talking about something last night that's very important to me, and I believe that he was describing the Kundalini experience. And he has described it better than anybody I've heard to date, because I have experienced it, and I didn't experience it until after I actually found you in 2011 and performed the Kundalini. This experience of experiencing all of the universe at once. It's very overwhelming. There are no words to describe it. This feeling that you are the Christ, you are the one. It's an overwhelming experience. And he had mentioned something about perhaps you have recently experienced it. So I wanted to talk about and to ask you, what are your experiences through meditation in attaining Christ consciousness? How did it affect you? How did you assimilate it into who you were before that experience? And how would you uh, what suggestions would you give people who have not had this experience of being one with everything this mind-blowing experience of Kundalini?
Yeah, beautiful. Great subject. Best one to approach, I think, because this is where we're all headed to turn our lead into gold. Alchemists, that's what we are by nature. And our vessel is an alchemical laboratory in which we can manage the pH um, uh, level of our bodies through not ingesting acidic um, diet and balancing it, and then balancing the blood, cleansing the blood and the cerebrospinal fluids. When we do this, we're actually um, transmuting the vibration. Everything's about energy, vibration, and frequency. So we're just a vibrating energy field. And so as we start with the earthy things, there are four elements: earth, solid; water, liquid; air, gas; and fire, radiance, in astrology. These are the four Platonic elements, astrological elements, and they equate to our materialist scientific solid, liquid, gas, and radiance, or plasma. And so when we start at the bottom, earth, our diet, that's the place to start. If you want to have this Kundalini experience, start there. This is why I always insist, always, and with love, sometimes aggression, but mostly love. Brothers, let's stop eating our other brothers. They're animals. They don't have a voice. They love living. Cows love to eat grass and live and grow other calves and grow them up, and the little calves don't want to be snatched from their mothers at the age of 1 day and brought to an abattoir to have their throats slit and bleeding and dripping and dying, and then being butchered and then taken to um, butchers and supermarkets so that we can then fry them and burn them and ingest them just to feed our parasites, and then half of it gets thrown in the bin anyway. So they don't want that. If they could speak, they would tell us that. And so start there, and then you start with the water element, and water is the universal solvent. Then air is the universal spirit, Nevma, and we are baptized in spirit, and then we get baptized in fire. Fire is the universal purger. And so are we going to a break? No,
Oh,
no.
no.
Thought I heard music. So, in my experience, I've had this experience where I've had it all my life. I've always been wired this way. I've always been weird, wired, same word, and I've always been connected to the spiritual realms. So, for me, it's been a whole lifetime of Kundalini energy happening all the time. I wake up, I'm in meditation mode. Now, but I have had other great enlightenment periods, and they have come to me on entheogens such as ayahuasca. Cannabis has been a good friend to me. I'm not saying go out and do these things. No, I'm just saying my personal experience in all of the mystery schools and all of the great ancient schools. They always made concoctions of entheogens so that they could have communion with the gods and with the god. And but I've also had them whilst not on entheogens. I've had an experience where for an hour and a half I was just in ecstasy and crying, and
It knocks you on your ass.
yeah, man, I was full of blue light. I saw the blue light of Krishna, the Lord Christ,
Hmm.
and it was a Christic experience, and everything in my body, there was only blue light, not white light, blue, soft blue light.
And
And it
what's horrible about it, Santos, is when you try to come back and then explain this experience to your family and friends, they put you in a loony bin.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, don't bother. Don't bother.
Yeah.
Just keep it to yourself.
No, absolutely. That's one of those things that's very difficult to relate. I always have to feel the need to interject, though, that there are many different experiences that you can partake in that are extremely natural, that are not harmful in any way, shape, or form, that can provide you with gateways to these types of experiences. I mean, for instance, sexual congress creates some of these things
Hmm.
if properly done. Um, there are, various things that are extremely natural. You brought up cannabis. I think that that's an extremely valid thing as well. This creates a certain state if used properly, let's just say, where you can begin to open those gateways within yourself, really. It's not necessarily about the universe opening up. The universe is already open. It's just a matter of you need to open your eyes, and there are various ways to get to it.
Well,
You know,
I think the
Yep.
Hindus said it best. They said if God were going to hide, he would hide inside man. That's the last place he would look.
Yeah.
there you go.
Yeah. That's where he's hiding, all right. It's actually, we have two gods hiding inside of us. We have the according to Bhagavad Gita, we have the uh, Jiva Atma, and Atma is an anagram of atom. All is atum, said the Egyptians. You'll find this word everywhere. All is atum. So the Jiva Atma, Jiva means life, individual life, and um, it's not visible at all because it's smaller than the point of a needle, and it's right there in your heart. And then there's the Paramatma, which is the Vishnu soul, the universal soul, which is 4 inches high and is visible to some people, and that's right next to the Jiva Atma. So you've got two souls. You've got a individual soul, Jiva Atma, and you have a Paramatma, universal soul in you. And we have to balance the two. We have to um, live in harmony with both of those. The jiva has to be in harmony with the Paramatma, with Vishnu. Vishnu is another way of saying Jesus. So Jesus is in all of us, and that's the divinity. And so, as for these entheogenic experiences, I'm not recommending them to other people because other people don't fare as well as I have. I've had LSD many times, and I've had massive illuminations through LSD. I've had DMT, massive healing, massive illuminations. I've had psilocybin mushrooms. I've had Amanita muscaria mushrooms. I've had all of these entheogens, and I've been blessed only by them. Now, I know some people are going to cringe and they're going to say, oh, that's naughty. You shouldn't be doing and altering. Well, if you eat an apple, you are altering your consciousness because an apple has its own consciousness. Whatever you ingest alters your consciousness. This
Right.
is why we shouldn't be eating death. Corpses, carcasses, cadavers, they're dead, and that is producing zombies. Look around. What do you see?
Hmm.
A lot of zombies. And so I would say to someone who is advanced and who is able to take an entheogen, that it is possible that that will help them and bless them. And but if they fear this and don't want to, experience life that way, well then just eat apples. But whatever you are eating, whatever, I don't care what it is, banana, you will get the consciousness of whatever you ingested. So to say and condemn someone for taking entheogens because you simply don't want to or have a fear of that is ridiculous. It's utterly ridiculous. Whatever you ingest, even every moment you breathe is altering your consciousness. If you know how to breathe properly, you will transform your consciousness.
Hmm.
Everything, every moment is a transformation of consciousness. So
Let me ask you
Right.
this, Santos. People who, let's say, are diagnosed with, let's say, paranoid schizophrenia, would you say that perhaps they've accidentally triggered the kundalini, and it's the job of the pharmaceutical industry to drug them immediately so they can stop seeing what they're seeing on the other side?
yeah, look, they probably do think that they're helping people by injecting them with pharmaceuticals and trying to help them and what have you. Um, Ultimately, they're not. But most of these things like depression and schizophrenia and all of these things that people are suffering are basically just an awakening that is happening naturally.
Mhm.
So what they're doing is they're dulling that awakening from happening, and simply because the controllers know that it's upon us. Joel the prophet spoke about God's Spirit being poured on every one of us. Some will prophesy, some will see dreams, some will have visions,
Mhm.
some will perform miracles. And we can see this happening. Everyone has different gifts. We're all different. We're all contributing in our various ways. And so we need to let that flourish. And depression is not depression. It's just, bad diet.
Mm.
That's all it is.
Yeah, I've even seen, studies and talked to individuals who tell me that effectively, drugs, people that have problems with addiction and things like that, not necessarily the drugs are not the problem, but the addiction, in a lot of cases, what it is the manifestation of a diet which is not feeding the chemistry of the brain correctly. And if you can bring that to an equilibrium, quite often the symptoms of addiction disappear as well.
Yeah, for sure. Look, we can change and heal everything through diet. And I would suggest to people to start looking into urine therapy. Urine therapy, the urine has everything that you need to self-medicate. And if you want to correct your body in anything, arthritis, whatever you've got, I would be looking into it. And the way to do it is to drink the middle portion, not the first drops, not the last drops, the middle portion. Look on the net, go into it. There is a good teacher on urine therapy, Andrew Norton Webber. You can look at his YouTube videos. I've had some altercations with him a few years back because he's again, people attack me. See, they don't see me. They see me attacking others, um, and they don't see what I'm copying behind the scenes. I've had massive, massive, massive attacks. People want to kill me for no reason, just because I'm teaching the truth here. But Andrew Norton Webber's a good teacher. He teaches to drink distilled water and how to drink the urine, and why it's good for you, why it's beneficial. It is beneficial. The Ayurvedics teach it. The Japanese teach it. All the ancient cultures taught it. We've been taught that it's a discharge of impurities, and it's not. Defecating is. Urinating is not. It's the cistern that Proverbs tell you, drink from your own cistern. Every day, if you drink a little bit, a glass or two of your own urine, you will self-correct. You will have health. You will have glorious, glorious consciousness. You will be godlike. You'll be divine. Your divinity will come back. Urine therapy. It's gold, the color gold for a special reason. It is golden. It is the drink of the gods. And things like that, walking barefoot, connecting with the earth, solar gazing. The sun's golden light will activate your pineal gland. Just stare at the sun. Learn how to. You will not burn your eyes. It will not burn your eyes. It will bless you. Nature has all the secrets. Nature is magnetic, and that is one thing. If you'll have me back one day, I'd love to speak about magnetism, how magnetism can help you heal. Everything's electrical and magnetism.
Oh,
And
yes. Yes, absolutely. I would love to have that discussion. We're almost out of time, actually,
yep,
Santos. And I do appreciate that. I definitely want to have a discussion about the magnetic universe that we are immersed in, because everything seems to revolve around magnetism in
everything.
one way or another. And you can find evidence of that through a lot of different observations, that's for sure. Now, I've got to tell you that sun gazing is something I might want to talk to you about, because I am physically incapable of doing it. I don't possess I'm basically what you call an ocular albino. I don't have the pigment in my eyes to protect myself from the sun. So it actually would do me harm. But for most people who are of the average construction, it's something that is good. Haven't been able to figure out how to deal with that yet, by the way. I
I'll look
operate
into
very
it.
well
I'll
under
look
low
into
light.
that for you.
I would really appreciate it, because
Mm.
I don't know how to get those benefits without. It literally will give me like a sunburn on my retina because of the way it's constructed.
In which case, then, brother, you would need to absorb the sun's magnetic healing rays. Helios is the sun, healer. Helios, healer. By going into the sun, strip down to your underwear and put some coconut, organic raw or coconut all over your body, in your hair, and just let, for 20 minutes a day, let the sun's rays penetrate you. Don't worry about the sun gazing. Do the other things. Do what you can do.
Yeah. Okay, well that would be a way to go about it. I usually don't because of the problems with my eyes.
Yeah.
I'm like one of these people that lives in the dark because of it. But I know it's becoming a problem as I get older. Anyway, I want to give you like the closing sort of thoughts here tonight. And Daniel Louis Crumpton was also with us. He interjected here and there, but mainly we focused on Santos Bonacci and what he had to say. And I'm extremely grateful that you joined us tonight, Santos. I really do appreciate you taking this time, and really appreciated the majority of what you had to say. Can't say that I
Right.
agreed with every single thing, but a lot of the truths that you speak to, my friend, are things that I have known instinctively for a very long time, and know by research are also absolutely true as well. So, again, let's not throw out the baby with the bathwater. No matter what you think of all of your conclusions, a lot of them are extremely valuable. That's just my 2 cents. But go ahead and give us the final thought here tonight.
Yeah, no, well, that's syncretism. As we grow in our syncing of all things and interrelatedness and appreciation of all the interrelatedness of all things, we will, we'll sort out the weed from the wheat, and we will see better as we purify our glass of water and clean it. And then, I'm learning, I'm growing. It's a work in progress, and we're all here in the same boat. We've been, suffering with ignorance. And as Daniel said before, the more you know, the more stupid you realize you are. As Socrates says, I know what I am intelligent because I know how stupid I am. And so if we keep humble, we'll keep learning, we're going to get there, and we're going to have paradise on this earth. Chin up, be hopeful. It's all good. It's all coming good. Good is God.
That's right. And stay tuned to American Freedom Radio. I'm sure something else will be interesting. The Ochelli Effect is done. We'll see you tomorrow night.